Afternoon, everyone from Chase Field, joined by Manager Bud Black. We will go ahead and get started here in a few seconds. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll get going as soon as possible here. All right, Danielle, why don't you go ahead and lead us up?
Hi, buddy. What do you think of Justin's debut last night?
I thought he held it together pretty well, Danielle. A lot of times you can really see the nerves of a young pitcher, but I thought he held it together. And obviously the 4-pitch walk and not advised, but from that point on, I thought he threw some real quality strikes. And he got through it unscathed with the 0 on the board. So good for him. I think it might have helped him. He popped up early about, I think, the 4th or 5th inning. We had him get loose. There was a chance there that Sensatella was running out of pitches. So that might have got him a little bit at ease to get up early in the game. And then, as the game moved forward, he probably calmed down a little bit and we waited till the 8th inning to bring him in. But I thought he did fine, and his stuff was solid.
He seemed a little surprised that he threw over 100. Were you surprised by that?
Well, you never know what to expect. I know that, that velocity's in there. I think that he's probably more of a guy that's going to, pitch from, 95, 97, 98 in that range consistently. I think he'd had some rest leading up to, last night's outing. So his arm was fresh and powerful. And in that major league debut, you're going to let it rip. And he did for sure. And he, got into that 100. I think he threw 1-pitch 101 on the, on the radar gun that I saw on a replay on a video. So again, but I'll be the first to tell you, velocity is great. It really is, but we still got to locate the ball regardless of the velocity.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Hey, buddy, a follow-up to Danielle's question. I believe it was spring training 2019 when Justin really kind of popped up on the radar screen during Cactus League games. And I'm curious, beyond the velocity, have you seen any changes to what he is as a pitcher? Because obviously he had to sit out with the suspension, et cetera. Or is he basically the same guy he was back then?
Well, let's go back, 4 or 5 months from 19, and the Arizona Fall League is when I think he really put himself on the map with his performance in the Fall League. And then in spring training of 19, he followed that up with a good spring. I would like to think, Patrick, that he has matured in a lot of different ways. I think mentally, I think physically his body is better than it was 2 years ago. I think he's really made a effort to get into the weight room, also with his nutrition. So even though you might not see it, obviously through the uniform or with the uniform on, I think he has gotten stronger and he's taking care of himself better. I think on the fundamental side of pitching, I think the delivery's become more consistent. I think a couple of years ago, it was a little bit more erratic from pitch to pitch, where his release point was, his finish, his times to the plate, all those things were variable. I think now he's sort of tightened that up. We still got to do a little bit of work on his times to home with a base runner, base stealer at first base. I think they could take advantage of that, the opposition, in his release times. I think the breaking ball is a little bit more consistent as well. I think each and every pitch with the breaking ball, the consistency overall is better than it was a couple of years ago. So, those are the things that have been noticeable to me over the last couple of years.
Okay. From what I understand, Brendan Rodgers started running a little bit. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. Can you give us a little the most recent update on him?
Yes. Yesterday he ran from home to first in a pretty much right down the line, hit the bag, and then and then, breaks it down. He did a number of those with pretty good intensity. I know that he's working on some form running as well, but he came out of that fine. Those hard bursts to first base out of the batter's box. And then he also took his lead at first base and then practiced that initial break and, ran about 20 yards or so after the crossover from, being ready to run from first base. Came out of that fine. So I think he's going to run again today, Patrick. So back-to-back days of running. The intensity and the effort is picking up. I wouldn't quite say it's game condition type effort, but the effort level is pretty high. So that's encouraging for sure where he is now.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, you got it, Patrick.
Nick Roque?
Yeah, buddy. Can you update us on Yancey specifically? What is his situation like?
Yancey's here with the club. He's able to play catch. The hand's a little sore, but not bad. He's going to work on a couple things with Daryl and Steve here in the ensuing days. A lot with the stride direction, a lot with the angle of his shoulders when he's coming down the slope. But we suspect that when his time's up, we're going to make a decision on whether to bring him back or whether he needs a few more days to work on a couple things mechanically.
Okay. Are those kinds of things that he would have been able to work on if he also hadn't been injured?
No, probably not. Probably not. You can, I guess you can, work on them in the pen while you're warming up. Be conscious of some of the things that we're trying to address. But in competition, when you're facing big league hitters and the winner or losses on the line or a save or just putting up a zero, that's the most important thing. And if you're out there thinking about mechanics and your stride direction and your release point and your spin rate and all the things that pitchers think about, in the off season or in spring training, you can't do that in a big league game. It's just like a hitter. You can't, worry about all the things that maybe you're trying to, accomplish in the cage in the early afternoon and some of the things you do, you want to improve on via video. You can't compete that way. You got to compete, let your mind be free, let your actions take over. And where the work comes in is the repetitive nature and the volume of your practice.
Gotcha. And then, but just to clarify, it's a hand bruise, but there's nothing else beyond that. And he's able to grip a ball and everything.
Yeah. Hand contusion. He's still able to grip the ball. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Just a little sore. Just a little sore.
Okay. Thank you.
Owen Perkins?
Yeah, hey buddy. I just had one question about a statistic, a split statistic. I wanted to get your perspective on, just in terms of how people hit at different places in the batting order. And if I look at somebody like Charlie, he always seems to hit like a cleanup hitter, except when he's hitting in the fourth spot. And his numbers are actually significantly lower there, even though it's a small sample of only about 50 games, than anywhere else in the order. How do you interpret that split? Does it mean anything, do you think? Or?
I don't think so. And I think you said it. If in his career, 50 games, it's probably less than, 200 at bats, I would think, or less. I don't know how drastic the splits are. I've not looked at that specifically where he's hit the best in the order. I would assume maybe leadoff, right, overall, because his numbers are pretty.
Yeah, he's about 100 points higher at leadoff than
so.
Yeah,
I don't really take any stock into that.
Okay. Yeah, and you're right about 200 at bats there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, go to Kevin Henry.
Hey, buddy. Sorry, we heard from Justin his perspective about getting the call up yesterday, and just kind of wanted to get from your perspective what that was like and how that was officially made known to him.
When I brought him into my office, yeah. Kevin, those are always great. Those are always I think the best ones you can ever have is when you tell a guy that he's active and he is a major league player on that day at that moment. We've had a couple of them this year already in season. Alan Trejo, that was emotional. He shed a tear of joy. And the same with Justin yesterday, the same thing. He shed a tear along with, and I got choked up a little bit, and I'm sure Steve and Daryl did. The four of us were in the room when we told Justin. That it's a great feeling. It's awesome. I still remember, the feeling that I was told that I was going to the big leagues. I was, in AAA. Actually, I was in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada when I got the call from the call into the office in Edmonton. We were a visiting team. I was with Spokane. We were a visiting team playing, but even going back to spring training, telling Jordan Sheffield, telling Ben Bowden, these are the good ones. I mean, these are the really good ones. And conversely, sending a guy down just the other day when we talked to Sam after Wednesday's game in San Francisco, that's hard. I mean, it's hard. But, sometimes, players have to go back down. And I think you look at the track record of a lot of players in the big leagues right now, and you look at their path, I'd say most of them have got to the big leagues and been sent back to the minors. It's rare that you get to the big leagues and you're a big leaguer the rest of your career, no matter how long it is, a 20-year career or a 2 or 3 year career. At some point, most guys go back to the minor leagues.
And just a quick follow-up, both the guys this year that have been called up that are, during the season at least, have been on the taxi squad when it's happened. Does that give it a little different perspective?
Well, probably a better question for them. I think it's still, I think it's still really cool, regardless. And this is a situation where you're with the big league team. You're getting told by the big league manager and coaches, and you're right there with the guys to greet you, the big leaguers. But on the, regular season, if you're a AAA player, AA player, and you're told by that, AA manager, AAA manager, that's got to be awful exciting too. The anticipation of, you're packing your bag, you're going back to your apartment or home and collecting your things. You're maybe getting on the airplane as a big leaguer, meeting the team wherever that might be. I'm sure that's a tremendous feeling for players, to have that type of scenario as well. So, it's just different. I mean, the last year and a half have been different, as we all know. So, it's everybody's path is different, and these guys will remember that they were taxi squatters and those type of memories.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, we'll finish up back with Patrick.
Buddy, myself as a baseball fan, I always look forward to games like this evening's where you have a really great pitcher in Madison Bumgarner and a guy like John Gray who's off to such a terrific start. I'm curious, I know you're immersed in winning the game and all the details, but do you look forward to matchups like this, being a former pitcher?
Yeah, I sure do. There was a potential matchup a couple of weeks ago. We had a doubleheader with DeGrom and the Mets. We decided to throw Herman in the second game and Chichi in the first game against DeGrom. And actually, we could have very easily won that game. But I'll look across baseball at the probables, Patrick, and I'll see a marquee matchup. There was one the other day in Cleveland when Garrett Cole faced Bieber. That had the potential to be a really, really good game. I think the Yankees ended up getting to Bieber and Cole, pitched a good game as well. But I like those types of matchups. I really do. And you see them, I wouldn't say every night, but you see, some star power on the mound a number of times a week all across baseball.
And one more for me, buddy. Speaking of star power, we asked John Gray, oh gosh, it's probably a good 2-3 weeks ago, maybe longer. What would it mean to him to become an all-star pitcher? And I'm not putting the cart before the horse, and I'm not trying to jinx him. But given the start he's off to now and how you've seen him evolve, does John Gray have the possibility of being an all-star type pitcher?
Well, the way he's throwing right now, for sure. I mean, 3-1 with a 2.5 ERA, and all the internal numbers are good. And there's still, obviously May, June, and early part of July to make your case. But the way John's throwing now, for sure. If he ends up making 14, 15 starts before the All-Star break, pitches like he does now, I mean, he'll be a definite candidate for sure.
Great. Thank you, sir.
You got it.
All right, thank you, buddy.
Okay, guys.
Everyone will talk to you post game.